Chapter 17. Leah had to park on the shoulder of the road yards away from the roadside disaster because of the crowd. She leaped from the car and started running, stopping only when a police officer forced her to. "Can't go closer, miss," he warned. "But they're my friends." She strained to see around him and the knot of people. Half the produce stand was fractured, splintered wood and smashed vegetables and fruit lay scattered on the ground. The scene was one of total devastation. Leah felt sick. "What happened?" "You'll have to step back, miss," the officer said, firmly, not bothering to answer her question. "We've got injured people here." "Please let me through," Leah pleaded. The officer turned to continue directing people away. Frantically, Leah grabbed a bystander. "Do you know what happened?" A plump, middle-aged man wore a grim expression. "Some guy lost control of his pickup truck, swerved and plowed into the stand. My wife and I were standing on the other side, or we would have been wiped out too." "Did it just happen?" "Maybe 20 minutes ago. They think he was drinking, or maybe he had a heart attack at the wheel. He never slowed down, just smashed into them." Leah craned her neck and saw a blue truck with an out-of-state license plate, nose down in a ditch in the field behind the stand. The split rail fence had been snapped like toothpicks, and rows of corn had been flattened with a start. With a start, Leah realized that the truck was on Longacre property. She pushed her way through the onlookers and edged around to the back of the area. A group of Amish kids, many sobbing and holding on to one another, were huddled on makeshift seats of cardboard cartons and plastic baskets. Some were holding towels to their faces, arms, and legs. Police officers and rescue workers were trying their best to comfort them. Anxiously, Leah scanned the group for familiar faces. "Rebecca! Where's Rebecca?" Leah tried to get closer, but another officer stopped her. "Sorry, miss, you'll have to stand back. I know these people. They're my friends. We have injuries. I can't let you in there." "Who got hurt?" Leah asked. The officer wasn't listening. He had turned to talk to a rescue worker. Frantic and frustrated, Leah looked around and down. For the first time, she noticed smears of blood on the ground. Shoving past the police officer, she ran towards the Amish kids. She was on her knees in front of one of Rebecca's friends, Karen. "Tell me who's hurt." Leah took Karen's hand. "Please, where's Rebecca Longacre?" Karen looked at Leah, a mix of shock and horror on her face. "The ambulance took her." Leah felt queasy. Is she okay?" Karen shrugged just as Leah felt the police officer's beefy hand on her shoulder. "I told you to stay back," the man barked. Shakily, Leah stood, fighting the urge to scream. "Where did the ambulance go?" The officer said, "Napanee Hospital emergency room." Leah ran back to her car. Her hands were shaking so badly she could hardly get the key into the ignition. When she did get the engine started, she gunned it and made a U-turn in the middle of the blocked highway, heading back toward town. All the way there, she prayed, "Dear God, please let Rebecca be okay, please." Leah raced into the emergency room. In one corner she saw the entire Longacre family, from little Nathan to the grandparents, in their quaint Amish clothing, surrounded by the high-tech decor of the hospital lobby. They struck a discordant note. Seeing Leah, Ethan came quickly to face her. Leah grabbed his shirt. "How is she?" "We don't know yet," Ethan said grimly. "We only just got her here ourselves, and the doctors haven't told us anything. I was on my way to your place when I saw. Leah's sobs choked off her words. "We were working in the fields when we heard the bell. Mama rang it and we came running." Leah remembered the big bell that hung on the front porch. It was rung for meals and for emergencies. When it sounded in the middle of the day, all the Amish came quickly to see what was wrong. "Oh, Ethan, this is so horrible. Why did it have to happen?" "Come," he said. "Sit with us." She followed him to where his father and grandfather stood. Their eyes closed, heads bowed. The family had formed a tight circle with chairs, and Tilly Longacre sat ramrod straight, clutching Oma's hand. Charity, Simeon, and Elizabeth were slumped, their cheeks streaked with tears. Sarah, looking very pregnant, held baby Nathan. Her husband paced the floor. Leah felt like an intruder, but she couldn't be shut out now. She wouldn't allow it. She crouched in front of Ethan's mother. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Longacre," Leah whispered. "Really, really sorry. My child is in God's hands now. He will care for her." Ethan took Leah to one side, and soon Charity joined them. Leah told Charity what she heard at the scene of the accident, then asked, "Do you know anything else?" Rebecca had her back turned and didn't see the truck coming. She had never had time to jump out of the way. Charity's voice cracked. "You mean the truck ran over her?" Leah thought. "She was going to be ill." "We are not sure, but that's the way it looks." "Then she could be. Do not say the words," Charity interrupted. Do not even think them." Leah turned back toward Ethan. "Rebecca's got to be all right. She has to be." "The produce stand was well made," Charity offered. "It was strong and sturdy. Perhaps it shielded Rebecca somehow." "Wood is no match for metal," Ethan said bitterly. All afternoon the lobby filled with Amish as word spread about Rebecca. Through the sliding glass doors, Leah saw a parking lot full of dark buggies and horses. The men came to Jacob, the woman to Tilly. Leah heard one man say, "We are all giving blood, Jacob. Your little one may have need of it." Leah watched as they rolled up their sleeves and followed nurses down the hall to the lab. She stood. "Maybe I can give blood too," she told Ethan, starting down the hall. He followed her quickly. You do not have to do this. There will be enough who give." "Don't you want my blood? Is it too English?" His face colored, and she regretted her words. "Forgive me, Ethan. I didn't mean it. I just want to do something for Rebecca." "There is nothing to forgive, Leah. I know how you care about my sister." At the lab, Leah collected paperwork from a technician and began filling it out. When she got to the box requesting information about diseases or illness she may have had, she stopped writing. "Cancer." The word jumped off the page at her. Her blood ran cold. She took it over to the tech. "Excuse me, but what if I've had one of these problems?" "Then you can't donate blood." "But why? I'm sure the problem's gone." "Sorry, that's the rule. We can't take a chance of passing on a serious medical condition to others." He reached for the paper. Leah wadded it up, tossed it on the desk, and fled the area. Ethan caught up with her in the hallway. "Stop, Leah." Crying, she struggled to get away. "It's not your fault that you had cancer," Ethan said. "Rebecca had plenty of blood donors. Do not concern yourself." "It's not fair." "It isn't, Ethan. There's nothing I can do for her. Nothing." He held her while she cried. Finally he fumbled for his big handkerchief and wiped her cheeks. "Come, I must get back to the lobby in case the doctor comes to tell us something." Leah went with him to the lobby, where a doctor in a white lab coat was standing with the family. Flecks of dried blood splattered his shoe coverings. He looked grim, and Leah felt her mouth go cotton dry. He was saying, "We've finally gotten your daughter stabilized and moved up to intensive care." "How is she?" Jacob Longacre asked, his voice thick with emotion. "In all honesty, sir, she's in critical condition, with massive internal injuries. Right now, she's comatose and on a respirator." "But she is alive?" Tilly Longacre said. The doctor nodded. "May we see her?" Mr. Longacre asked. "Yes. ICU is on the third floor. The nurses up there will take you to her." The doctor put a hand on Mrs. Longacre's shoulder. "We're doing everything medically possible for her." Leah realized that the doctor didn't sound hopeful at all. Mrs. Longacre held her head high. Her eyes were diamond bright with tears. "We will go to her." Calmly, she walked arm in arm with her husband to the elevator, and the rest of the family followed like ducklings. Leah fell into step beside Ethan, hardly daring to take a breath, terrified that she might use up all oxygen in the room and not leave enough for anybody else. In the ICU area, a nurse took the group into a glass-walled cubicle where Rebecca lay on a bed, hooked to wires and machines. Green blips trailed across the faces of monitors. Electronic beeps punctured the silence, and the ominous hiss of the respirator spoke of the fragility of Rebecca's life. Leah stared mutely. Rebecca looked like a fractured china doll. Her face was bruised and her arms were in splints. The tube from the respirator protruded from her mouth, held in place by crisscrosses of papery white tape. An IV bag hung from a pole, a long tube running down the needle inserted under the skin of her hand. Her tiny body hardly made a mound beneath the sheets. Seeing Rebecca lying so still and unmoving was more than Leah could bear. Feeling light-headed, she held onto the wall with one hand and moved down the hallway, hoping she wouldn't pass out. Just when she thought she wasn't going to make it, she felt Ethan's strong arms around her waist. "Are you all right?" he asked. She shook her head, not trusting her voice. "Sit." He led her to a waiting area and settled her into a chair. "Take deep breaths," he told her. Leah gulped air and then, finding her voice, managed to say, "Go on back and be with your family." "I don't want to leave you. Please, go on. Your place is with them." Ethan rose. "I'll be back soon." Leah watched him hurry away. She hugged her arms and rocked back and forth in the chair. Outside the window of the waiting area, sunlight beat down. She could feel the heat through the glass. Outside it was summer and the air was hot, but inside Leah it was cold. Very, very cold.